Your mission, should you choose to embark on it, involves following your dream, giving in to your passions, working with amazing persistence on your opportunity to help transform the world.
For a lot of people, they are entrepreneurs out of necessity.
Ogni giorno è come il primo e ogni traguardo, ogni risultato, ogni riconoscimento è un nuovo punto di partenza.
You may select any team members, but it is essential that they share common sense, hard work, and stick-to-itiveness.
La cosa fondamentale, io da solo sarei veramente, la nostra azienda è un successo di un gruppo di persone.
Remember, time is limited and work is endless. As Tom Peters puts it, only unbridled passion for your project is likely to see you through the 17-hour days, month after month.
I think that is one of the greatest challenges today.
As always, mistakes will be part and parcel of your startup process. Even Edison found 10,000 ways that wouldn't work before nailing the right one. Thus, should any member of your team fail, never disavow knowledge of their flawed actions.
Society doesn't know how to process failure. Society doesn't see failure as a teaching experience.
Avoid getting trapped by dogma. Avoid letting the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice.
Uno dei nostri valori principali è l'umiltà.
Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition and jump.
I have to confess, I always like to do whatever seems like it's the most fun.
A warning note before starting the countdown. Please remember, real entrepreneurs have no safety net underneath them.
There was all this amazing activity going on in the online world, and it seemed to be the place where major changes in the world would take place. So I really wanted to be involved in that.
What was so strong just weeks ago is in a very different place today.
This message will ignite in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There is an appealing yet misleading image of entrepreneurs, according to which the entrepreneur, when born and bred, is passionate, idealistic, goal-oriented, a lonely risk-taker who will work non-stop in one of those mythical backyard garages to fulfill his dream, come hell or high water. But there is much more than sanguine spirit in entrepreneurship. A lot more than the romantic and endlessly told epic journey from the always promising seedbed to the encouraging seedling and then to the adult tree blossoming into success. There is much more to it than the intense overture theme of an inspired soloist. Just as the spark needs the fuse to take the flame within to its full expression, to its most expansive blast of fire, the entrepreneur needs company. A team with the basic and yet complex blend of attributes of the perfect partner, a fellow traveler, a soulmate, someone ready to see beyond the dazzling fireworks of the big idea and work, support, and help the leader move forward.
Soft, warm, hand-rolled pretzels fresh out of the oven. If you've been to a shopping mall in America, you've probably savored an Auntie Anne's pretzel. What started as a hobby for Ann Byler turned into something more, a profitable worldwide business with over 900 locations. But Ann's recipe for success did have a few bumps and twists of faith along the way.
The founding of the company in 1988 was in a small farmer's market in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. And it was just a single location, really offering a broad array of snacks. And pretzels was a part of that. And Auntie Anne and her husband Jonas were interested in the pretzel.
How can you make your customers more satisfied? How can you keep them attracted and loyal to your center? How can you improve the way they work out and monitor their health and lifestyle? How can you increase the professionalism of your trainers? Technogym has developed the Wellness System, the first customer relationship management solution.
Technogym nasce da un garage, quello di casa mia, circa 20 anni fa, grazie alla passione per il design, per la tecnologia e il grande desiderio di realizzare un sogno, quello di diventare imprenditore.
bet you've never seen a pair of these before. Are you completely bonkers? Just shut up, man. Really? Jolly good jeans. Nigel.
Io penso che ognuno dovrebbe fare un po', seguire il proprio DNA, sentire la sua attitudine dove si sente più forte e cercare di sviluppare queste sue attitudini. Se uno crede di sapere veramente fare qualcosa, di battersi all'infinito.
Share your expertise on a subject by writing about it for Wikipedia, the world's biggest encyclopedia. This multilingual, web-based, free content encyclopedia already contains millions of articles, but there's always room for something new.
I had the idea of the encyclopedia. I just thought of it as this amazing humanitarian concept. If you just imagine a free encyclopedia for everyone, high quality to educate the poorest among us and the richest among us, everyone can go to it. That's a pretty compelling idea that I think really has captivated a lot of people.
The basic motive for self-actualization is common to all human beings, young people. It's just that the contextual circumstances where you find yourself are very different by accident of history or serendipity. And a good entrepreneur has to adapt to whatever the local circumstances are that sometimes will enable certain things more and sometimes will be barriers to other things.
But entrepreneurs somehow already know what they truly want and gladly acknowledge that everything else, sooner or later, is secondary. Entrepreneurs are risk takers, willing to roll the dice with their money or reputation on the line in support of their big idea or their nascent enterprise, and assume full responsibility.
In any class that I teach at Harvard Business School, there are lots of people who really, in some sense they may do something entrepreneurial, but they're primarily their internal compass is not to embrace risk.
Far vedere quello che sei capace di fare. E questo se qualcuno vuole fare un brand.
It's every day, very, very busy process. It's never ending.
L'umiltà è quella di non dare nulla per scontato, di mettere il cliente al centro, di cercare sempre di soddisfarlo e di dargli qualcosa in più per sorprenderlo.
Entrepreneurship just is an acceptance of risk and acceptance of innovation and opportunity.
It's a fact. The life of an entrepreneur can be occasionally exhilarating and definitely exhausting. Nevertheless, how could any entrepreneur with a challenging vision, confronted with the opportunity and the possibility to create something from scratch, and armed with the talent and magnified potential of a well-chosen, committed team, be tempted to betray the spirit of the founder in him, especially when the work to be done involves such breadth that the boredom of routine and the limits, restrictions of specialization don't seem to exist?
So often I see other brands driven by quarterly results or other pressures that I think move you away from your vision and from your values.
Pensa, mi alzo al mattino, posso toccare da vetrine, pubblicità, casual, prodotti da bambino, gioielleria, orologi, occhiali, borse, scarpe, cioè abbiamo così tante cose fantastiche che ogni giorno posso cambiare, posso fare ed è troppo bello questo mestiere che faccio e poi lo faccio con un'incredibile passione e spero di continuare con questo tipo di attitudine.
I think that any business is making a big mistake if they don't acknowledge that there are some major changes going on and that there may be impacts on business.
It's sort of like holding people back for 3 decades and suddenly opening the gate.
Just as the post-crisis new capitalism, the Web 2.0, social networks triggered the reframing of the map of business outside in all over the world. An economic, political, social sea change in emerging economies like China and India is opening new spaces, outlining different business models, awakening the dominant entrepreneurial spirit of the young and the elder, nurturing a process that is reshaping the biggest nations in the world inside out. A lot of energy has been unleashed in the last 2 or 3 decades in China and perhaps 15 years in India, and then engaged in a succession of waves, which, in turn, are still transforming society on an ongoing basis. Clearly, the ferment of entrepreneurship is warm in both cases, catalyzed by a combination of powerful drivers: authenticity, transformation, self-discovery, passion, and the deep, both collective and individual certainty that the time for business has come. Entrepreneurship is the vivid manifestation of human initiative. It works as the engine of economy when seen through the lens of business. It moves ideas from abstraction to reality. With or without an economical purpose, entrepreneurship equals intention plus decision plus planning plus action. That's why it's so frequently and poetically related to dreams, free spirits, passion, ambition, change agents, and so intensely studied as an easy, flexible, comprehensive, industry-neutral approach to value creation. And consequently, that's why it is globally promoted as one of the most widely accepted tools to channel progress and development, both between leaders and laggards, both in cutting-edge markets and economies seeking for a leapfrog into the future. The ideal driver for business all over the world, in developed countries that continue to struggle their way out of recession, and also in the emerging world, which is enjoying the unwaning dynamism of one of its most spectacular growth periods in history.
I think that is one of the greatest challenges today, how quickly business changes. And what was so strong just weeks ago is in a very different place today.
I have to confess, I always like to do whatever seems like it's the most fun. So there was all this amazing activity going on in the online world, and it seemed to be the place where major changes in the world would take place. So I really wanted to be involved in that.
Io credo che la formula vincente alla fine sia essere se stessi e non imitare altri, perché poi fingere è difficilissimo. Quindi cercare di imparare a essere se stessi e quindi cercare di essere coerenti nel percorso professionale e soprattutto metterci la passione, l'entusiasmo e credere fino in fondo a quello che si fa.
I don't think there's any industry where there isn't room for a lot of entrepreneurship. And I think the more innovative experiments that are playing out, at least in China and India, are those where companies are actively harnessing literally tens of thousands of employees.
No matter the market, the industry, or the country, no matter the stage in your business life cycle, thinkers, doers, and makers say attitude comes up as the critical factor. Something that can't be taught, but maybe one of those capabilities you don't realize you have until reality makes you bring it to the surface and use it. Backed up by the passion that led you to start your business, to take a chance and be your own boss, your positive attitude will be your daily companion in good times and when problems arise.
Anne was entirely displeased with how the pretzel was turning out, what it looked like, and how it tasted. And so in the course of over a couple of weeks and a missed delivery on some of the flour and other ingredients, Anne finally gave in to Jonas's prompting, in which he wanted to work on the recipe a little bit. This is probably one of the initial innovative parts about Auntie Anne's, was the fact that Jonas could bake. Jonas grew up a young Amish boy, and it was entirely uncommon for an Amish boy to be in the kitchen with their mother, and yet he had. And so he had these memories of when he was young and what they did when they baked bread and some other things. And so he applied that and went out and bought the ingredients and corrected the the missing ingredients that were not delivered, and baked the pretzels himself and served them to the first customer. And the first customer that tasted the pretzel literally said, "Wow, this is phenomenal." And that was the result of innovation based on plans really not coming along to spec, so to speak. There were other expectations, but that was making the most of that.
Building upon problems, difficulties, mistakes, that's how great stories are made. Aunt Anne is a great story, an icon of brilliant failure. Nothing more, but nothing less than a fearless commitment to innovation, a problem-solving try that resulted in catapulting a little store in a corner of a mall into a chain of thousands today.
Finally, I was going to give up on it one day, and Jonas was there, and he said, "Well, before you give up, let me try something. I have an idea."
That's how the essence of the culture of a company is built. By trusting individuals who share your commitment, who get involved and work before being asked to, who dare try and fail. Remember, entrepreneurs average 3.8 failures before final success. And it is amazing persistence that sets the successful ones apart. Be ready to change plans and strategies. Be flexible, for that flexibility is your inherent advantage over large businesses. But never compromise on your core values.
Ogni giorno c'è sempre qualcosa che non va, poi sono della Vergine, quindi sono sempre molto meticoloso, vado a vedere le piccole cose, quindi di cose ne sbagliamo tante, però vorrei dire che sono contento di sbagliare, di aver sbagliato, di continuare a sbagliare, perché grazie a tutti questi errori posso vedere da questi errori per fare meglio la volta prossima.
Io ho cercato di fare questo mettendomi in discussione tutti i giorni, cercando di migliorare costantemente per perseguire insieme alla squadra l'eccellenza.
La cosa fondamentale, io da solo sarei veramente, dico, la nostra azienda è un successo di un gruppo di persone.
First-person testimonials on the importance of the original passion imbuing the company, of that contagious confidence, of that deeply ingrained belief that the endeavor will be successful. Renzo Rosso, founder and owner of Diesel, the clothing company he created while at the Genius Group and then bought out from the other partners in 1985, believed he could do something great with the brand. And he actually did. In 1996, Renzo Rosso and Diesel received the Premio Risultati, an award from the prestigious Bocconi Institute in Milan, for being the best Italian company of the year. In 1997, Ernst & Young nominated him as Entrepreneur of the Year, with the same passion Jimmy Wales embraced for the mission he felt Wikipedia should have. Or Nerio Alessandri, founder and president of Technogame, who was driven by an insatiable entrepreneurial ambition and true love for mechanics, some 20 years ago, at the age of 22, when he created the company, The Wellness Company.
Noi abbiamo invece sposato 20 anni fa il wellness come filosofia. Il wellness è uno stile di vita, è composto da una regolare attività fisica, una sana alimentazione, ma soprattutto un approccio positivo alla vita. E questa missione, che è una missione sociale, che permette di migliorare la qualità della vita delle persone, è un vantaggio per tutti.
My original vision statement for the project is for all of us to imagine a world in which every single person on the planet is given free access to the sum of all human knowledge. So that's what we're doing.
E grazie all'innovazione a 360 gradi su tutto, quindi il prodotto, il servizio, i processi, la finanza, le risorse umane, attraverso un'innovazione costante siamo riusciti a diventare leader nel mondo.
We're a long way away still. I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, we're really successful obviously in all the languages of Europe. So English, Spanish, French, German, even some of the minor languages of Europe have huge projects. We're successful in Japanese, we're successful in Chinese, but we have a long way to go.
Saying no to growth is very difficult. It's very difficult, but it's important to have a long-term view on the business and what's good for the business.
In terms of the size, there's over 11 million articles. That's in over 200 languages. I personally count 157 languages as being fully launched, meaning they have at least 1,000 articles, but there's a lot more languages beyond that that are struggling to get started. In terms of people, the best estimate that I have is it's around 280 million people a month see the website. So that's pretty big, and it's a kind of a big deal. That's 280 million out of 6 billion, so we've still got a lot of people to go.
Ma noi per innovazione significa anticipare sempre i nostri concorrenti, essere sempre un passo in avanti rispetto ai concorrenti.
A plain and simple, and at the same time powerful and enticing message for all entrepreneurs: never get caught in your comfort zone. You know there are always bigger things to accomplish. Just as Jimmy Wales, the factotum of Wikipedia, felt that the internet and its opportunities meant much more fun than the trading business he was in before starting the revolutionary online encyclopedia, entrepreneurs love navigating the waves of the sea of unexplored possibilities around them, rather than surfing the worlds in their own pond. It's said that once you become an entrepreneur, you generally become a serial one. Entrepreneurs do not stop in the middle of the journey. They seem to be always ready and naturally equipped for the steep walls or the friendly valleys, for the impossible stance or the easy approach and putt, for the usual steps on the road or the unexpected turns. Entrepreneurs have a special instinct, an urge for triggers, an affection for hazards. They are avid as hunters and restless as farmers. They do not disregard any sign, no matter how difficult the prey, no matter how heavily plowed the soil.
It's actually an interesting thing. The first wikis were created in 1995. There's a programmer named Ward Cunningham who created the first wiki and named the idea. And from 1995 until 2001, wikis were a small underground phenomenon on the web. In fact, the early wiki pioneers didn't want people to know about their wikis oftentimes because they felt that if it became popular, then too many people would come in and would destroy it. Wikipedia really changed all that. You know, I said, well, let's try to make it as popular as possible and see what can we do to keep it from being destroyed.
A lot of companies have around the world. Far-sighted managers and entrepreneurs are happy to borrow an idea from wherever they see it, which is exactly as it should be.
Quando i nostri concorrenti hanno introdotto la tecnologia, noi siamo andati oltre, abbiamo messo l'intrattenimento, quindi la televisione incorporata, per permettere alle persone di divertirsi mentre fanno ginnastica. Quindi l'idea nostra è sempre stata quella di aggiungere contenuti al prodotto, quindi tecnologia, design e contenuti, all'interno di un pacchetto dove i servizi sono fondamentali.
Specialties, commodities, high-end products, B2C or B2B. Entrepreneurs have a wide array of choices, more or less creative, red and blue oceans, using the concepts developed by strategy experts Renee Moburn and W. Chan Kim, are waiting for entrepreneurs all over the world to make of them a new value proposition, one that is desirable for customers and profitable for business. There are lots of innovative experiments playing out in real time out there. The good news for everybody is that they are there for the rest of the world to profit from them. There is no barrier but initiative and decision. Two attributes experts say are in the makings of any intuitive entrepreneur.
Oggi siamo diventati fornitori ufficiali delle Olimpiadi e questo grazie alla passione, all'entusiasmo di una squadra, la squadra Technogym, motivata, competente, che ci ha permesso di realizzare un sogno molto più grande di noi.
We continue to innovate around the menu development with a focus on proteins, a focus on food items that can be eaten on the go, recognizing that people are also, in the current economic environment, shifting some of their eating patterns away from maybe a $13 meal in a quick casual restaurant to something less than that, and yet they're still eating out, and so we're trying to fit some new items into that consumer need.
Every piece of knowledge that a company has is a competitive edge, that sometimes you're better off giving away the knowledge than hoarding it, because you can help to fundamentally change the industry in a way that's advantageous to you in a broader business sense. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on, a lot of cool thinking.
And there's a lot of sort of business model innovation that's going on in both China and India, perhaps more so in India. Things like what I've heard referenced as the affordability revolution. In other words, finding ways to re-engineer everyday goods and services so that the resulting product or service is incredibly cheap and efficient, and making that available to pretty much people of all types all across the world, across the income spectrum, is already and will in the future touch a lot of people.
Involvement, emotion, the right side of the brain, with its creative big picture thinking skills, with its ability to create, to come up with something new and unexpected, to see the world in a completely fresh way, plays a prevalent role in entrepreneurship. But it definitely does not overrule the illogical, linear, sequential faculties of its left brain counterpart. Planning and analytical thought are as good as intuition. Without them, ideas, no matter how good, may lead to procrastination, which in turn may lead to missed opportunities.
As we look ahead, we're focused on a steady growth, growth that is within the strength of the business model, We don't want to grow just for growth's sake, but we want our franchisees to do very well when they open a location.
Your system should be automated enough and flexible enough to allow you to do that for them. And if you don't, you're going to lose business to someone who can. That's true in lots and lots of places.
We could open twice as many locations this year if we chose, but the risk for our franchisees would be higher. And so our focus on growth is on profitable growth, on maintaining the strength of our business model, which is why our franchisees want to continue opening stores.
Growth always exerts a powerful attraction on the curious, hands-on spirit of the entrepreneurial mind. Quite irresistible when scratch is the starting point. Absolutely mandatory when it's your existing business that comes of age.
In the early 90s, when we realized that expansion was available and the interest was high and the opportunity was there, we went to the banks and started laying out a business plan, and we're trying to secure some loans so that we could expand at least on the east coast of the United States at that point. And the bankers were intrigued and sometimes excited.
So if you look at a map of the world, in the next 25 years, most of the incremental food consumption that's going to happen is going to happen in China and India. And most of the incremental food production that's going to happen in Brazil and maybe one or two other spots around the world. So you have a clear opportunity, and lots of entrepreneurs are all over this one and saying there has to be a way to match this up, and let's go find people who know how to work in the food markets of Asia and figure out how to penetrate it.
I think the rate of acceptance has been pretty similar in most of the countries that we've gone to. The population and the opportunity for development has driven that. Thailand has been our most successful country in terms of growth, in terms of their marketing and reaching the audience.
เป็นคุณก็ต้องทำแบบนี้เพราะรู้ว่าเพรสเซลของร้าน Auntie Anne's ทุกชิ้นเนี่ยมีชิ้นเดียวในโลกก็เพราะเป็นงานฝีมือที่สดอร่อยมีความพิเศษไม่ซ้ำใครทุกชิ้นอย่าลืมบันทึกความทรงจำแสนอร่อยไว้ก่อนทานนะคะ Auntie Anne's แสนฮิตแสนอร่อย
I think for a lot of people, let's say 500 million people, the numbers are mind-boggling, 500 million people in India and maybe 300 million people in China, they are entrepreneurs out of necessity. But for a goodly sum of people, I'm going to pick some numbers that are roughly correct, I think. Say a few tens of millions in each of China and India. This is very much a story of upward mobility, very much like the American dream. And these people, the young people, are no different than the young people in any other part of the world. Their aspirations are the same. And once their basic material needs are accounted for, I think you'll see the similar divergence of aspirations that you see in other affluent, semi-affluent societies.
No matter how awesome the potential market or how successful the first incursion, it is said that the hardest growth in small business is the second bump, the one you expect after you've conquered the first uphill climb. One that could make you feel you've taken your company, your dream, to the top of the world, and your emerging company to the top. Although most people feel a certain itch to at least give a try to their inner ambitions, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. We've pointed it out earlier. As highly emotional as it may seem, it also requires a cold head, a bulletproof love for risk, rigorous planning, hard work, as well as a natural culture that accepts, promotes, and values individual drive. As Tarun Khanna, the Harvard Business School professor and author of the recent Billions of Entrepreneurs, How China and India Are Reshaping Their Futures and Yours, confirmed during a recent visit to Korea. Khanna said, entrepreneurship also requires a great team of collaborators, managers, and employees that not only understand your vision and are deeply committed to it, but are also able to take your ideas a step forward and, why not, to be your dauphin, someone you may rely upon to make your company last longer than yourself.
I was just in Seoul last week in Korea, speaking to Samsung, which has been an incredible success story in the last 15 or 20 years. And one of the things I gleaned from that society is that even today, failure is very, very costly. And I don't mean just that you lose whatever your investment was. I mean that society doesn't know how to process failure. society doesn't see failure as a teaching experience. It says it treats failure as a reflection of your innate attributes. And appropriately, what happens in Korea is that people don't want to be entrepreneurs because it's too risky to do it. I'm happy to say that in China and India, I think those societies have turned that corner. And increasingly, particularly in metropolitan cities, people are beginning to see failure as a learning experience. By and large, I think that's something that is a wonderful thing to celebrate. And I would say that particularly in a place like Bangalore, other than perhaps Silicon Valley and Tel Aviv, I wouldn't be able to point to an instance where there isn't more can-do attitude.
Credo che un buon leader sia quello che comunica con i suoi collaboratori e, come dire, lì è un trascinatore verso la realizzazione del progetto.
I'm just this guy from Alabama who likes to type on the internet. There's this friendly guy who dropped by for a chat, you know, and I mean, I really think I do have some interesting ideas that I got from other people, or some of them I made up myself, you know, but really I think I mean, look, we're here on the planet, we might as well be nice to each other and be friendly and try to do something useful, and that's kind of who I am.
Per cui spendo veramente molto tempo prima di scegliere la persona. A volte mi restano delle sedie vuote anche per un anno prima di riuscire a rimpiazzare quel posto, e per me è troppo importante che la persona nuova che arriva sia veramente in sintonia con tutte quante le altre, che non crei che non sia di rottura, quindi devo trovare una persona che si trovi bene con chi siamo e che sia soprattutto di livello. E lì sta la grande difficoltà, perché abbiamo un management di altissimo livello, e se per caso piazzi qualcuno che sia di un livello inferiore, gli altri se lo mangiano.
I have very little to do with the day-to-day management of the foundation. You know, they're in California and they're better off not without me messing around with anything. And mostly what I'm involved with is basically trying to spread the word, doing shows like this, where hopefully someone who's out there watching this will say, wow, I speak Swahili and I'm here in Latin America listening to an English program, and I'm going to go and actually look into this, and I'm going to actually help out in Swahili or something like this. So it's always communicating to people what we're about, that we're a charity, that we're really trying to change the world. That's my main role.
Prima di tutto un leader deve dare l'esempio, quindi deve cercare di valorizzare le persone, la propria squadra, cercando di ottenere risultati straordinari con persone, diciamo, ordinarie. Quindi tirare fuori il meglio dalle persone attraverso la passione, l'entusiasmo, e coinvolgere, condividere con tutta la squadra un grande progetto.
Obvious as they may sound, these short, to-the-point pieces of advice are at the heart of the hectic entrepreneurial life. Together with a strong work ethic, the same that will help you beat the competition by outworking them, the same that will make of you a true leader and not just another egomaniac who believes the company is his playground and his kingdom and his business a toy, a complex board game with the rules he wrote.
Pensare in grande, essere per Technogym, rappresentare per Technogym il wellness nel mondo. Questo è un sogno che è quello che noi vogliamo realizzare.
There is something very powerful about Wikipedia as a representation of human possibility on the internet. That, you know what, we really can, a whole planet, we can actually pull together, create something good and of value. It's neutral, it's kind, it's trying to be helpful. That really works well in the nonprofit environment, and it means we don't have to compromise on that mission. That's our core mission.
We went out and started talking to our consumers about Auntie Anne's as a concept, and what do you see and what do you feel, and some of what we learned is what led us to the brand personality that we're working on creating now. They saw us as dependable, and they saw us as stable. They saw us as grandmotherly.
Star bene conviene a tutti, conviene alle persone per vivere meglio, conviene al governo, allo Stato per ridurre la spesa sanitaria, così come conviene alle aziende per migliorare la creatività, la produttività dei suoi impiegati e dei suoi collaboratori. Questo è un progetto talmente importante che ancora noi abbiamo tanta strada da fare.
Changing the world. That's what most entrepreneurs almost invariably think is the potential behind their idea. Highly moving and inspirational, and also politically correct, this goal gives their initiative the dazzle of a major purpose, something greater than profits to fight for. A great vision, though, does not necessarily equate into a great company, nor even into a successful one, unless it gets through the good intentions stage and moves into realizable perceived value. As John Maxwell once said, commitment separates doers from dreamers.
Siamo focalizzatissimi, concentratissimi nell'essere il wellness lifestyle nel mondo e di strada ne dobbiamo ancora fare.
We're not just a website in English, we're in every language. We're not just a website, in fact. We know that there are only about 1 billion people online, and there are many billions more who are not online and won't be online for some time. So we need to think about how can we be in their language.
Per me e per i miei collaboratori ogni giorno è come il primo e ogni traguardo, ogni risultato, ogni riconoscimento è un nuovo punto di partenza.
It continues to be very exciting every time we open a store. Franchisees that are joining and become a part of the Auntie Anne's family are always excited and then always apprehensive, because you have so much investment, so much energy on the line when that store opens, and then to see the line form again and again is very rewarding.
That continuous flow of rewards, with risk, stress, and other minuses popping up now and then, is the energizing input that reinforces the initial passion on the go. Being an entrepreneur, no matter how serious the endeavor, can be quite an enjoyable adventure. Never boring, but never easy. It can be a smooth trip from milestone to milestone, or a breathtaking roller coaster.